What if the voice calling your name wasn't human? And what if it was already inside your home? These are true stories. I shouldn't have stopped. That thought plays in my head more often than I care to admit. It was supposed to be a straight drive. One long, peaceful haul from San Diego back home to Sacramento. But if you've ever driven alone through the San Bernardino Mountains as the sun starts to set, you know how easy it is to get caught up in the quiet beauty of it all. The pine trees towering above, the way the mist curls low over the highway, how the fading light turns everything gold for just a few minutes before dusk swallows it whole. That's when I saw the message pop up on my phone. Dude, you're near Lake Arrowhead, right? Pull over and come say hey. It was Evan. A name I hadn't heard out loud in years. My best friend in high school. The kind of person who knew everything about you back when you still didn't know who you were. I hadn't seen him in nearly a decade. Just the occasional like on Instagram. A birthday DM maybe. I was about to respond with a polite excuse, "Next time, man," but instead I typed back, "Got time?" He dropped a pin. 5 miles off Route 173. I turned off the highway without even thinking. I wish I had thought about it. The roads narrowed fast, winding, climbing, hugging the curves of the mountain like a ribbon tied too tight. The sun was gone by the time I reached his place. A little wooden cabin tucked beneath thick evergreens. It looked like something out of a storybook, if the story ended badly. There were no neighbors. No sound except the wind through the trees and the crunch of gravel under my tires. Evan was already outside when I pulled up, arms open, grin wide. He looked older, sure, but still had that same warmth. The kind of energy that made you feel like no time had passed at all. The cabin was charming in a dated way. The porch creaked beneath our weight. The inside smelled like old pine and dust. Furniture that looked like it had been bought before either of us were born. A stone fireplace sat unused beneath a mounted set of antlers. The place hadn't changed much, he told me, except now it was his. His parents left it to him. He lived alone. We talked, poured whiskey, laughed about old memories, cutting class, skipping prom, stupid teenage stunts that somehow didn't kill us. There was a kind of magic in it, a soft warmth that settled in with each sip. That old friend feeling you forget exists until it finds you again. Hours passed unnoticed. The bottle emptied slowly. The room grew smaller, cozier. He mentioned it casually, like it wasn't the thing I'd been hoping he'd say, but was too polite to ask for. "You've got a long drive. Just crash here tonight." I nodded. "Couch is fine." "Nah," he said. "Got a spare room. It's nothing fancy, but the bed's better than that lumpy old couch." I didn't argue. He led me down a narrow hallway with warped wood floors that creaked beneath every step. The spare room was small, cold still, like it hadn't been touched in years. The bed was made, but the air inside felt untouched, undisturbed, as if even the dust had settled long ago and refused to move again. I dropped onto the mattress without even pulling back the blanket, drunk. Exhausted, grateful. I don't remember closing my eyes, but I do remember waking up. My mouth was dry, my head was spinning. The room was dark, but a sliver of moonlight spilled in through the blinds, casting shadows in strange shapes across the wall. That's when I saw it. In the far corner, right by the closet door, something stood. At first, I thought it was just a coat, a long black trench coat hanging on a rack, but there was no rack, and the shape wasn't right. It was too tall, too rigid, the upper part too broad like shoulders. It didn't sway, it didn't move, it just stood there, staring. I blinked hard, tried to reason with myself. I'd been drinking, I was overtired. It was just a shadow, just my imagination, just still there, perfectly still. My heart was racing so fast I could hear it. I turned over, squeezed my eyes shut, and told myself to sleep, to ignore it, to forget it. I don't know how long I stayed like that. Could have been minutes, could have been hours. But when I woke again, it wasn't to fear. It was to sound, a slow, deliberate creaking, like someone stepping across the floor, wood groaning under weight, pausing, then stepping again. I opened my eyes. The room was slightly brighter now, gray with early morning light, and the figure was gone. Gone. I sat up too fast. The room spun around me. But I didn't care. That corner, where the thing had stood, it was empty. The closet door was shut. I threw off the blanket and rushed down the hallway, still dizzy, adrenaline pumping through the last drops of alcohol in my blood. Evan was asleep, snoring softly in his room. I shook him awake. It took a minute, but eventually he sat up, rubbing his face. "What?" he mumbled. "The coat," I whispered, breathless. "In the spare room. Did you put a coat in there?" He squinted. "What coat?" There was a black coat hanging on the closet door. It looked like a person. It was just standing there. Evan looked more awake now, frowning. "I don't own a trench coat, and there's no coat rack in that room." I stared at him, waiting for the smirk, the laugh, the gotcha. It never came. We checked the room, then the rest of the cabin. Every door, every window, nothing. No sign of a break-in. No coat, no reason. "You were probably dreaming," he said eventually. "Half asleep, half drunk. That room's creepy, man. I get it. But I wasn't dreaming. I saw it. Twice. I felt it. That thing was watching me." I left after breakfast, the tension between us quiet but heavy. I didn't want to believe he was lying. I didn't want to believe I was crazy. But the whole drive home, that image burned in my mind, that shape, that presence. What haunts me the most is this. If it was never there to begin with, why did it feel so real? And if it was real, what did it want? If you want to hear the next chilling story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell. It helps us keep going and bring you more stories you'll never forget, no matter how hard you try. Now, before you go, here's a question for you. If you saw something standing in your room at 3 a.m., would you A, get up and confront it? B, close your eyes and hope it goes away? Comment A or B below. We read every reply. And remember, not everything that watches you at night is just a dream. I've always believed that silence can be just as loud as any scream, especially the kind of silence that follows something you're not supposed to hear, the kind that waits for you to question your own sanity, and then, just as you convince yourself it was nothing, returns louder, closer, and far more real. It was the summer I turned 18, the kind of summer that's supposed to be carefree, filled with bad music, long drives, and fireflies. My parents had this plan to go on a rustic, off-grid road trip before I left for college. I wasn't exactly thrilled. No Wi-Fi, no electricity, and no actual bed? Not ideal. But they sweetened the deal by letting me bring Claire, my best friend since we were 9. With her there, even mosquito-filled hell seemed survivable. We'd planned to spend a few nights at a lakeside campground near Lake Vermilion, a remote stretch in northern Minnesota surrounded by miles of dense pine forests. Except when we got there, everything was booked. A huge soccer tournament had flooded the area with families, campers, RVs. The lady at the desk was apologetic but firm, nothing available until the following week. My dad, ever the adventurer, decided we'd just find our own corner of the wild. So, we followed the GPS down a narrow road into the woods until we reached a gravel lot tucked beneath a thick canopy of trees. There was a trail sign and a small trash bin, but no ranger station, no people, no noise. Just one car parked at the far end, beaten up, windows dusty, clearly abandoned. Claire gave me a look. "Are we sure we're not accidentally pitching our tents on a crime scene?" I laughed, but truthfully, I didn't like the vibe either. Still, we were tired. It was almost dusk, and this was the best option we had. We set up camp, 2 small tents side by side, one for my parents, one for Claire and me. The air smelled like pine and lake water, thick and earthy. We ate from plastic containers, took pictures of the orange sky over the treetops, and tried to settle into the stillness. Around 10:30 p.m., after getting cozy with snacks and YouTube videos downloaded offline, Claire and I curled into our sleeping bags, whispering about nothing in particular until the exhaustion finally took over. The forest outside was eerily quiet. No owls, no wind, no life. That's when the first sound came. A sharp clatter, metal on gravel. Claire sat up fast. "Did you hear that?" I nodded, wide-eyed. We both froze, listened. It came again. A heavy metallic sound, like a shovel maybe, being tossed onto the rocky parking lot. We didn't move, didn't speak. Then came the unmistakable slam of a car trunk. Not gentle, not cautious, just slam, like someone didn't care how much noise they made. I crawled toward the tent window, pulling the flap open just enough to peer through the mesh. The abandoned car at the far end was lit faintly by the moonlight. Its rear was now closed. And a figure, tall, broad-shouldered, walked around to the driver's side. Then the engine roared to life. Headlights flicked on, and the car sped off into the woods like it had somewhere urgent to be. I turned to Claire, whispering, "What the hell was that?" She shook her head. "I don't know, but I don't like it." We tried to calm down. Maybe it was just a hiker leaving late. Maybe they didn't even see us. That's what we told ourselves. 10 minutes passed. Then we heard something that made my blood turn to ice. A scream. Not a distant yell. Not an animal. A human. A man. And he was screaming like he was being torn apart. It echoed through the trees, bouncing off branches, ricocheting inside my skull. There was no mistaking the pain in that voice. It sounded primal, like every instinct in his body was fighting something we couldn't see. I grabbed my phone and texted my mom asking if they'd heard it too. No answer. I called her. She answered sleepily. "What scream? You didn't hear that?" "No, we're fine. Go back to sleep." But I couldn't. I wouldn't. I was terrified. Then everything went silent again. Not peaceful. Dead. Claire and I lay frozen, the tent suddenly feeling paper thin. Vulnerable. And that's when the footsteps started. They were soft at first, crunching over pine needles and gravel. Someone was walking around our tent, slow, measured, as if studying the space. Us. Then the steps moved to my parents' tent, then to the car. They paused, then circled back. Claire and I didn't move a muscle. I turned my phone face down to kill the light. My heart was thudding so loud, I was sure whoever was outside could hear it. And then headlights. Bright beams cut through the trees as a vehicle, the same one, returned. Its light swept over our tents, stopped, held. I peered out the window again. The driver's door opened, and someone stepped out, just for a second. I saw the silhouette, large, still. Then they slammed the door, got back in, and drove off, fast. Relief flooded through me, but it was short-lived. About 5 minutes later, red and blue lights approached from the opposite direction. A sheriff's cruiser flying past us, headed down the same path. I don't know what happened after that. We didn't hear sirens, no gunshots, just nothing. Claire and I decided to move to the car. We locked the doors, huddled together, watching the woods until the sky started to lighten. I didn't sleep. I don't think I even blinked. When the sun rose, we packed without speaking. My mom had also heard the footsteps, she admitted later. She said there was a moment when someone stood near their tent and breathed, heavy and slow, like in horror movies. My dad never woke up. We left within the hour. Later that day, I looked up the forest. There had been a homicide there earlier that year. A man stabbed to death, connected to gang activity. 2 others had gone missing near the same lake. Never found. And that's when it hit me. What if that car wasn't just passing through? What if the person walking around our tents wasn't lost, or curious, or even alone? What if they were looking for something, or someone else? I still think about that scream, about how close we might have been to disappearing into those woods, never to be found. And the worst part is, I don't think anyone would have heard us scream back. Some memories grow softer with time. Others don't. Some stay sharp, frozen, locked in like a photograph in your head that never fades. What happened that night was one of those memories. I was 6. My brother Joshua was 8. And I'm telling you this not because I want to believe it. I'm telling you because after all these years, I still can't find a reason to unbelieve it. We lived in a modest 2-story house just outside Portland, Oregon. The kind of place where every house looked like the one next to it. We had a front yard, a swing set, and a set of stairs that led from the second-floor bedrooms down to a small living room. My parents' room was on the first floor. Joshua and I shared a room upstairs, across the hall from the guest room my grandma used when she visited. Our dad was strict about bedtime. No exceptions. 8:30 sharp, even on weekends. He believed that rules built discipline. Sleep builds character, he'd say, as if that was something a kid should care about. That night, I remember falling asleep easily. There was something comforting about the hum of the bathroom fan down the hall, the faint rustling of the trees outside, the way Joshua's breathing synced with mine in the dark. It was just another night in the life of 2 brothers who knew nothing about the world beyond their little window. But then I woke up. Not to a nightmare, not to a noise, to a feeling. Joshua was already sitting up in bed. I remember the look on his face, confused but not scared, yet. He shook me gently. "Mike," he whispered, "wake up." I blinked, still groggy. "What?" He held a finger to his lips. "Just listen." I did, and I heard it too. A voice, downstairs, a familiar voice, our mom, calling our names. But it wasn't normal. It wasn't her regular tone, loud, cheerful, sometimes impatient. This was soft, dragging, almost too careful. "Joshua, Mikey." She was calling for us, but something about the way she said our names made the hairs on my arms stand up. I started to get up, instinct telling me she might need help. But Josh stopped me. "Don't," he whispered. "That's not her." I frowned, half angry, half afraid. "What do you mean it's not her?" He didn't answer. He just got up and walked to the bedroom door. Slowly, quietly. He opened it and peeked into the hallway. The fan in the bathroom was still humming. The hall was dark, the way it always was at night. I followed him. I couldn't not. That's what little brothers do. At the end of the hallway was the stairwell door. We always kept it closed at night. I remember Joshua putting his ear up to it. I did the same. Silence. Then the voice came again. Closer this time. "Joshua, Mikey, come downstairs." And that's when I knew. It didn't sound wrong because of what it said. It sounded wrong because of how it said it. There was no warmth, no rhythm, no real breath behind it, like someone mimicking her voice. Rehearsed, flat. I reached for the knob. Joshua grabbed my hand. "Don't." I didn't listen. I opened the door. Only a crack, just enough to see. The stairs creaked slightly beneath my feet as I leaned forward. The house was still dark. The only light came from the microwave clock in the kitchen, casting a soft green glow into the room below. And at the bottom of the stairs, standing in shadow, was a woman. She was facing the stairs, long hair, pale face, wearing what looked like a nightgown. She didn't move, just stood there. Still and quiet, like she'd been waiting. My heart thudded against my ribs. Then she spoke. "Come here, sweetie." But her lips didn't move. I slammed the door. Joshua and I ran back into the bedroom and locked it behind us. I remember crying, shaking, trying not to throw up. And the strangest part, she knew our names. The next morning, Joshua and I noticed the stairwell door had been left open. Wide open. We always closed it at night, always. The chain on the front door, unlatched. We asked our parents again, desperate for answers. They stuck to their story. Bad dream, sleepwalking, kids being kids. But later that day, a police cruiser parked across the street from our house. It stayed there for hours. No lights, just waiting. Our parents never explained it, and they never brought it up again. Years later, I asked them about that night over dinner. I'd moved out by then, started my own life, but the memory never let go of me. They exchanged a glance, a long, silent look. Then my dad changed the subject. "I think they know what happened. I think they've always known. But I also think they're more afraid of the truth than we were of the lie. Because whoever that woman was, she wasn't just some stranger. She called us by name, and she was already inside. She knew our names. The next morning, Joshua and I noticed the stairwell door had been left open, wide open. We always closed it at night. Always. The chain on the front door, unlatched. We asked our parents again, desperate for answers. They stuck to their story. Bad dream, sleepwalking, kids being kids. But later that day, a police cruiser parked across the street from our house. It stayed there for hours. No lights, just waiting. Our parents never explained it. And they never brought it up again. Years later, I asked them about that night over dinner. I'd moved out by then, started my own life, but the memory never let go of me. They exchanged a glance, a long, silent look. Then my dad changed the subject. I think they know what happened. I think they've always known. But I also think they're more afraid of the truth than we were of the lie. Because whoever that woman was, she wasn't just some stranger. She called us by name, and she was already inside. Charleston has always felt safe to me. It's beautiful in a soft, southern kind of way. The pastel homes with wraparound porches, the Spanish moss hanging like curtains from the trees, the old iron street lamps that give everything a warm, golden glow at night. I'd walked home 100 times under those lights, alone and never afraid. Until that night, I was 16. That weird in-between age when you're old enough to think you understand the world, but still young enough to believe that danger is something that happens to other people somewhere else. It was a Saturday in early spring, and my friend Emily was hosting a backyard get-together at her house a few streets over. Just girls. That was the plan. Low-key, no pressure. We were supposed to eat snacks, talk about school, and pretend we weren't already counting the days until summer break. But Emily had a habit of changing the plan. It wasn't long before I saw him. Ryan. We'd dated briefly the previous fall. It hadn't ended badly, exactly, just awkwardly. He was part of the same friend group, and Emily, for whatever reason, thought she could fix things between us by surprising me with him. The moment he showed up, I knew I didn't want to be there anymore. There was nothing dramatic about it. I just felt off, like I'd stepped into a room where the air didn't fit me anymore. I waited another 30 minutes before telling Emily I was heading home. She tried to convince me to stay, but I made an excuse about needing to be up early. I didn't even wait for her to walk me to the front gate. I just left. The walk home was familiar, straightforward, about 20 minutes if I took the main route. It was cool that night, but not cold. One of those rare evenings where the air feels perfectly still. No wind, no noise. I put one earbud in and let my thoughts drift until I heard the second pair of footsteps. I paused. So did they. I turned around. There was a man about half a block behind me, hood up, hands in his pockets. His posture was relaxed, like he was out for a stroll. I tried not to panic. This was a residential neighborhood, not some sketchy alleyway. People walk their dogs late. Sometimes neighbors go out for smoke breaks. It didn't have to mean anything. Then he spoke. "Evenin'," he said, like we were old friends crossing paths. I nodded. "Evening." Then I turned and kept walking. After a few blocks, I glanced back. He was still there. Same pace, same distance. I texted Emily. No answer. I tried a few others, but no one responded. That's when I started to get that cold, creeping feeling. The kind that slides between your skin and your ribs. I changed my route slightly, cut across to a different street, thinking maybe he'd keep going straight. He turned with me, then again, and again. He was following me. No more pretending. My heart began to race. I walked faster, but not too fast. I didn't want to run, didn't want to make it obvious. Then he called out again. "Nice night for a walk. Not many people out." I didn't answer. He laughed, light, like a joke between friends. "You live nearby?" That's when I knew he wasn't just being friendly. He was testing me, seeing how much I'd reveal, how much I'd panic. I kept walking. My hands were shaking, trying to text again, trying to think. I needed someone, anyone, to pick me up. Then he said it. "I'm not gonna hurt you," he called. "You live right by the library, don't you?" I stopped, dead in my tracks. He stopped too. That smile, I can still see it. Too wide, too proud, like he'd been waiting to let that piece of information slip, like he enjoyed watching me unravel. I turned and ran. I didn't care about pride. I didn't care about how I looked. I just ran. Fast. I screamed, loud enough to wake the dead. "Help! Call the police!" Lights flicked on in the houses around me. Porch doors creaked open. I didn't look back. I ran straight to a house where an older couple stood on their front steps, clearly confused but concerned. I told them someone was following me, that he knew where I lived. They took me inside, locked the door, let me sit on their couch while they called the police. I don't even remember what I said, just that my voice kept cracking and my hands wouldn't stop trembling. Ryan was the first person to respond to my texts. Ironically, the one person I'd been avoiding all night. He drove over in less than 3 minutes. I climbed into the passenger seat without a word. He didn't ask questions, just drove. When we got to my house, everything was dark. My mom wasn't home, out on a date, I later learned, and the place felt too still, too exposed. Ryan came inside with me. We sat in the kitchen, talked for a bit, trying to process what had just happened. I remember feeling this strange gratitude toward him, despite everything. Then we heard something outside. Footsteps, circling the house, not rushed, not loud, but deliberate. Then the creak of the back gate. My room faced the backyard. We went upstairs quietly and looked through the blinds. We couldn't see anyone at first, then a voice, low and close. "I see you up there." Ryan cursed under his breath. "We're calling the cops," he shouted. Whoever it was didn't respond, didn't run, just left. Or at least we think they left. When the police arrived, they swept the area, asked questions, made a report. They were kind but honest. Unless the man came back, there wasn't much they could do. That night changed everything. My mom came home an hour later and was horrified. The next morning, she called my uncle, who installed a full camera system around the house. Motion-activated lights, visible wires, signs that warned 24/7 recording. I stopped walking alone after that. Stopped trusting the quiet streets I once called safe. It's been years since that night, but sometimes I still feel eyes on me when I pass that street. And I still wonder, how long had he been watching? Was it the first time? Or had there been others? All I know for certain is this: you never forget the sound of someone following you, especially when they already know where you live. When you look at these 4 chilling stories, Daniel's strange night in a mountain cabin, Vanessa's terrifying encounter in the woods, Michael's childhood memory of a woman who shouldn't have been there, and Jessica's brush with a stalker, you realize that horror doesn't always wear a mask or come bursting through a window. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it lingers in the background. Sometimes it knows your name. Each story shares a haunting similarity. An ordinary moment turns unsettling without warning. A road trip, a camping night, a childhood bedtime, a simple walk home, each began harmlessly, predictably, and then spiraled into something none of them could explain, predict, or stop. What makes these stories powerful is not just the fear they ignite, but the truth they reveal. The world can shift in a second, and sometimes the most chilling part isn't what happens, but how real it feels afterward. The lesson here isn't to be paranoid, but to be aware. Trust your instincts. Pay attention to small details. Speak up when something doesn't feel right. Sometimes fear is your mind's way of protecting you from something your eyes haven't fully understood yet. Listen to it. These stories remind us to take nothing for granted, not even the most familiar places. They show us that safety isn't always about where you are, but how present and prepared you are in the moment. Stay connected, be aware, and most importantly, believe your gut, even when the world tells you not to. Now here's a quick question for you. If you were in Vanessa's shoes and heard someone circling your tent in the middle of the night, would you A, stay silent and hide inside until morning? B, Shine a flashlight and confront whoever's out there? Comment A or B below and tell us why. What about you? Do you believe all 4 of these stories really happened? Or do you think some things are better left unexplained? Drop your thoughts in the comments so others can see different perspectives. If you enjoyed this story and want more content just like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you never miss a nightmare you'll never forget. See you in the next story.